Hi, welcome to Conversations with the Coach. Today we're talking about From Mess to Success. And I'm Randy Levin. I am a certified transitional life strategist, author, speaker, and reinvention expert. And with that, we think about some of the decisions we make when we're 20 or 22 years old. And then we think they're going to stick. And we turn 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years old, and they don't stick because we've changed and we've evolved, and we're supposed to do just that. And so the question I ask everyone is, what's next? And with that, what's next is Conversations with the Coach, where we're going to be talking today on all aspects of organization and letting go. Letting go. Gotta let go to let in. So I want to introduce you to my co-host, Gail Gruenberg. Gail is the founder and owner of Let's Get Organized. She is your go-to person for all things organization. Her business is all about letting go. And I'm going to let Gail do her own intro a little bit so she can tell you a little bit about herself. Gail?
Thanks so much, Randy. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me, Randy. I'm happy to be here. I started Let's Get Organized way back in 2003 when I was still working as a CPA. I was miserable in my little cube and I felt I had more to offer the world, not to mention myself and my family. So since then, I've become a credentialed, certified professional organizer in chronic disorganization through the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. And I've helped hundreds of clients change their lives by getting organized.
So cool. Don't we love changing lives? We do, right? We
do.
Lives. It's a
We're
great
change
thing.
agents.
So Gail, I know that often clients approach me, and I know they approach you with that, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what's going on. Things are oozing out of everywhere. I have all these things on my to-do list. You know, I can't seem to figure out what to wear in the morning. It's just unraveling. And often I look at that clutter, because the clutter that they may be talking about, or the procrastination that may be showing up for them, some of these issues are things that parallel very much between personal and professional. So what may be going on in your closet may very well be going on personally for you in all aspects of your life. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're right, Randy. And I often say it's not
Yeah, we're losing you.
about the stuff.
Yeah.
The clutter in someone's space. Sometimes a challenge of executive function. And regarding people with ADHD, because this is pretty much what I know the best and it's applicable to just about anybody, there's a saying that if you know one person with ADHD, you know one person with ADHD. However, whether someone has ADHD or not, there are some traits that are often pretty characteristic of someone who's struggling with disorganization. The number one complaint from my clients is, I just can't calm my brain down. There's so much swirling around in their minds and so many exciting things to do that memory, follow through, and initiative often fall by the wayside. And what I find is that what's left in the wake are usually missed appointments, unpaid bills, things scattered all over the house, strained relationships between partners who don't struggle with disorganization, and they just can't relate to someone who does struggle is going through. And my clients have experienced all kinds of shame, perceived failures, and criticisms from people who don't struggle with being disorganized. So their self-esteem is already down the tubes. And based on their past history, they don't exactly have a rosy outlook toward the future. They often throw up their hands and say, why even try? I'm only going to fail again. So this is where I find a coach and a professional organizer can be especially helpful as part of their support team.
Yep, it's the same thing for me, obviously. People think we know what we know, right? We have this comfort level. And even if we know that we're reaching into our closet and none of our clothes fit us, but we're going to keep trying them on every morning, or we know that we've got this to-do list that's never really going to get done in its existing format, or that there's something we've wanted to do, but we're not doing it, it's still something that we know, we're familiar with it, so we keep on doing it. We carry this weight around with us, and it carries over into all aspects of our lives, and then we get stuck because we want to do something else, but we don't know how to do something else. So I wanted to discuss a little bit about fear, which we know is behind a lot of the reasons we get stuck. And there's a big fear around letting go. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's just personal. We like to hold on and hold on. I'm going to give you a really good for instance. So here's my little bottle of water, right? So this is a 12-ounce bottle of Poland Spring, and it's full, right? Absolutely to the top. And there's nothing I can do to add any more to this unless I take something out, okay? So we all have all these opportunities in our lives. We all have all of this potential. Like there's potential there could be more water or more of something. But unless I let something out of here, I can't let something else in. So its capacity is locked. Very much the same way as our own capacity can be locked when we're not letting go of things, okay? So if I were to let a little bit of water out of here, I could fill it with nothing. I could fill it with more water. I could put vodka in. I could put orange juice in. I could do whatever I want to do personally, right? Same thing with this cup, all right? So right now this cup is empty. This cup could hold peanuts. This cup could hold water. This cup could hold wine. It can hold anything you want it to hold. And so we walk around personally in our lives with a cup. And when we keep it filled to the top, that's our today. That's what we can hold. We can't hold anymore until we figure out that may not be working in its entirety. And so we need to empty a little bit of that out, a little bit out of this, and figure out what it is we want to be in that bottle of water, in that cup. Very metaphorical, but a way to think about how we approach that fear that we may have of letting go of something. Gail, what are your thoughts?
I agree with you completely. You're absolutely right, Randy. In fact, one of the things I often say is we can't fit 50 pounds of stuff in a 20-pound bag. And I would like to note that one of my specialties is kosher organizing, which means that I help observant Jewish families and other families who would like to increase in their spirituality. And as a result of that, one of my taglines has become make space for blessings. And as you said, you can't bring something in until you take something out. So in order to make space for blessings, you have to create that space. And when I first used that phrase with my clients, they tend to stop in their tracks. It really catches them off guard. And then they sit up and pay attention. And it makes them think about what they truly want in their lives. And once they start having this perspective shift, it can sometimes be easier to help them let go of old beliefs, others' voices in their heads, telling them what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, the stuff that clutters their heads, hearts, and homes will be much easier to let go of.
Yes, yes. For those of you who are on audio right now, you guys are, I hope you're unmuted. I think you are unmuted. I can't seem to, my button went off when I dropped out before. Can anyone want to add anything to this? Anybody have any thoughts or questions?
I think it's also situational. Things happen in your life for certain periods of time, and that's the impact. And so knowing why you are the way you are, that's part of it. But like the other part that you talked about, okay, how do we move on from there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. How do we move on from there? And that becomes sometimes the big question, what is next? And we don't really ever let go of the fears. They're always with us. We get fear and scared of things at a young age, and we carry them forward. The only way we can get past them is to move through them, to do the very thing that the fear is suggesting. So, if you're a hoarder and you're holding on to everything, you need to start slowly, letting go of the pieces of paper, the 12 pairs of black pants, the 700 pairs of shoes in your closet, these things that are things that don't necessarily have any intrinsic value or meaning to you. And when we start to let go, I often tell my clients, you can see the weight on their shoulders sometimes. That's the backpack you're carrying with all those rocks in it. What would happen if you took out some of those rocks? Just a few, and saw like what that space was, and what that felt like to have that backpack on your back with a few less rocks in it. So, the fear is a big thing. Definitely.
May I chime in there as well?
Absolutely.
There's a book out there by Susan Jeffers that's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Yes.
I haven't finished the entire book, but I just love the
It's on my
phrase.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that often people will accumulate things in order to not feel, period. They don't want to feel anything. They don't want to feel any negative emotions. So they surround themselves with stuff thinking that they'll maybe feel a little bit better, insulated from those negative feelings. But if one can admit to oneself, like, okay, I feel sad, I feel anger, I feel depressed, and all right, at least like we were talking about earlier, Randy, about forgiving yourself. Like, just acknowledge that you have these feelings and it's okay and it's part of life, and you're not going to melt because you have these negative feelings. You're a strong person. You've gotten through here so far. And, you might feel a little yucky at times, but if you can just embrace that and know that you can move through it, then the future becomes much brighter.
Right. Exactly. It really, really does. It really, really does. So what does clutter also do? Clutter tends to zap our energy in a big way. It takes up our time. It takes up our money. When we start our day and we're trying to figure out like what's going on in the closet and we can't find something, and then we're looking for our keys and we can't find those, and then we're in our car and we thought we left the folder there, but we didn't because we can't find anything in our car. And then we're thirsty, but do we really want that bottle of water that's been laying there? And it kind of goes on and on and on. And so, yeah, maybe you're showing up for everything okay, or you feel like it's okay. So I made it to the meeting on time. I made it to work on time. My kids are where they need to be. It's okay, right? Think about it for a second. Let's assume that you spend 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is not a lot of time, 15 minutes a day cluttered. So you can't find the keys. You can't find the right pair of pants, the one pair that does fit of the 5 or 10 or however many black pairs are in the closet. You can't find that folder. You're looking for your phone and you're holding it. All of those types of things. So when we have that clutter and we're wasting that time and taking that time, it takes away from other things that we're doing. So think about it this way, right? If we took 15 minutes a day, right? That adds up to 105 minutes a week. At the end of the year, that 105 minutes is 5,460 minutes of clutter, of looking for something. Translates 3 3/4 days. What could you do in your life with 3 3/4 days back in your life? You could take a little trip, a little mini vacation, right? You could spend the time in bed watching television for 3 3/4 days. You could play with your kids. You could do a hobby. You could take a class online. It's an infinite possibility of the things you could do if you put a little more organization back in. And that's just 15 minutes. So if you think of a day that may not be, or maybe a little more challenging, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it may not be 15. Maybe you wasted an hour looking for, or you were chasing that to-do list, but you never really got to the most important thing. Start adding up what that's costing you and give it back to yourself. It's a gift you can give back to yourself when you're mindful of what that cost is and what that time commitment is. So it's a choice, and I love to discuss choice. So what are your thoughts on choice, Gail?
Oh, I agree completely. Everything is a choice. We have a choice as to how we spend our time, who we associate with, what we keep, where we work, where we live. Everything is a choice. And I'd like to just note, as you were saying, what you were saying about being mindful. Mm-hmm. If we're just a tiny bit more mindful of what we're doing, where we're doing it, why we're doing it, I think that will give us a bit more freedom of choice, because we run around like maniacs all the time thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice about where I work or who I'm married to or this or that, the other thing.
No choice.
But we do. We all have the power to change our own lives. We just have to stop every now and then and realize that. And
superpower. It's one of the only things that we really can change and affect is what we do with ourselves.
Absolutely. That's right. We can't manage time. We can just manage how we deal with it. And sometimes somebody will call and say, I just need a little bit of a jump start. And that makes total sense. So we'll do what I call a periodic look through. It makes sense every now and then just to see, like take a really good hard look at your life, what you have, like we were saying, and then reevaluate what belongs and what doesn't. And I know we'll talk about that in just a moment.
Exactly. And one of the things that I think gets in the way is the stuff that we accumulate. So we may not even realize we're doing it. Our desk may always have those papers and those folders in the corner. And if no one calls it out, you just think that's part of your desk, right?
It becomes the wallpaper.
Right. The floor of your closet may be filled with shoes, and like the floor of your closet for 20 years has been filled with shoes. That's what you do. You don't even see the shoes, but none of them are matched, and you don't wear half of them. You may be proceeding to the same events, to the same things, with the same relationships, and those are your relationships. Maybe you're not even mindful and present in what they are. They're just part of what you're going through. And so I guess the real piece of that is, what's the best way for people to stay on top of what's cluttering, whether it's physical or it's mental, emotional, personal?
You're right. And before even staying on top, I think that periodic look through is essential. First, we have to know what we have, and then we have to create the systems for maintaining it. So how many times have I been with a client and I hear them say, I was just looking for that, or so that's where it is. And like you said, the shoes on the bottom of the closet, they're mismatched. Maybe they don't fit anymore. They're in disrepair. You don't even know that they're there. Things get buried and forgotten when we're rushing around in our daily lives. And we spend time and energy looking for things, and we spend money to acquire the things we didn't even know we already had. So
exactly. It's true.
So before
shop in your own closet.
Yeah, exactly.
Your own life.
That's right. And sometimes you find better there than what's out there, in the stores or whatever.
Right. No, it's true. It's really true. We tend to just accumulate things and not even realize we're mindfully or not mindfully doing it. And they may or may not be serving us well. So one of the things I'm doing, which I tend to do more this time of year than ever, is to actually clean out my own closets. And with that, it always spurs on this mental game. It's kind of like, okay, so I got rid of how many bags of stuff. I feel lighter. I do. I feel less encumbered, more empowered, more in control. Certainly feel like I know more what I have or don't have. And so that translates back. And if I think about, what you said about kind of taking an inventory, there's that physical inventory of what are my things. And then there's that mental inventory of what's going on for me now. So maybe I made promises to myself in January that I would go to the gym. Maybe I made promises that I'd have a different job or a different relationship, or something would shift in my business. And here we are going into that last part of the year, and it's kind of that back to school mindset of, okay, where am I at? So this is a great time post-summer to think about what's next, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and taking that inventory to multiple levels, essentially, and really trying to figure out what that means for you. So a lot of choice involved in that. So how can the act of simplifying transform and change your mindset? So just the idea of simplifying something, simplifying the to-do list.
Oh, I find that once my clients start to get organized, and it is a process rather than a destination, they feel so much freer after they've looked at what they have and what they do, and then decided what no longer serves them. So they do decide to make some changes. They breathe easier. They feel healthier and happier. And I've seen this time and again. When people get organized, they start to lose weight. They take better care of their bodies. They eat better. They feel better. They look better. And I just find that firsthand, the benefits of simplifying and organizing are myriad.
Yes, they really, really, really are. Does anybody have anything else to add who's on audio with this? Because I'm not sure who is on audio and who isn't. Maya, we see you dancing all around there. I don't know if you can hear us. Are you cleaning? Are you decluttering? Does anybody have anything they want to add or questions so far?
Hi, this is Kathy. I guess for me, the whole process is like, where do you start? Like, how do you determine where to start?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that.
Great question.
It doesn't really matter. Sometimes just the actual starting is the the point, excuse me, I wanted to say jumpstart. So when you jumpstart, you just really jump in, look at one tiny little place, maybe the corner of your desk, as Randy said, maybe one drawer, one appointment, one relationship. It doesn't really matter as long as you start. And one of the tricks that we use in organizing is sometimes all you need to do, if it's in your physical space, put up a paper towel tube to your eye, and wherever your eye falls, start there. Because when you look at something in the total, it's very overwhelming. Yeah, thank you. I didn't come up with it. I have to credit Judith Colbert. She wrote Conquering Chronic Disorganization.
It takes that
but it
mountain
works.
away and makes it a hill, which is a much better thing, because we can scale the hill, we can't always scale the mountain.
Right, and you can chunk things down into smaller, much more manageable pieces.
Right. One of the things I talk about in coaching with my private clients is my GPS coaching system. And one of the points to that is if we get into our cars and we program into our GPSs, I don't know, where are we going to go? Okay, so first we have to have some sort of goal, all right, some sort of destination, if you would. However, the more important piece is the growth. It's the steps in the process to that. And every little step counts. It's like if you took a jigsaw puzzle and turned it upside down on a table, 1,000 pieces to do it. Every piece is important. All of them matter. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny little piece or if it's that corner piece that's connecting everything together. They all can measure growth, okay? And if you're looking at yourself now and saying, okay, where was I in January? Where am I now? Is there growth? And that's the key. So where is there growth? Where do I want there to be more growth? Pick one thing and do it. Make sense? Did we answer your question, Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, partially it's just bigger than that, because then like you talk about the ADHD, but then that kicks in, right? Because you start on that one piece, but then something distracts you, you start on something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if you're able to get to that one piece, like how do you keep that piece so that when you're done with everything, that piece isn't back to being a mess?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that. First, I'm going to go back to what we were saying about forgiving yourself. One of the things I'd like to give the people on our call today is what I call the 10 commandments of professional organizing. And number 1 is thou shalt not beat thyself up. And if you do lose focus, then sometimes an external mechanism like setting a timer or having an organizing buddy helps to keep you on track. So sometimes the supports are external, sometimes they are internal. And the more practice, so to speak, someone gets at staying on task, the easier it gets. Would you mind just saying again what your exact challenge is? And I lost the thought that I had.
There was kind of the 2 challenges, right? Is how do you continue to just look at that small piece and not let the ADHD kind of component kick in where you're jumping from place to place. And then also is once you do get that one piece, say, clutter free or cleaned up, is how do you maintain it while you're still trying to clean up other areas per se?
It is a challenge. And boy, oh boy. Well, what I would like to say is if you do have ADHD or ADHD tendencies, I would suggest using those tendencies to your advantage, because one thing with ADHD is everything is new and exciting. So if there's a way to keep it new and exciting and fresh, then okay, spend 5 minutes over on the desk, and then, oh wow, okay, so let me spend 5 minutes over on the shelf, but then, oh, let me go back to the desk for 5 minutes. So sometimes task hopping works for people, sometimes it doesn't. And in my experience, I definitely feel that sometimes that external support helps to maintain. Definitely simplifying allows you to have to maintain less, so there's less to think about, less to remember to do, less to keep on track. And every person is unique, so what's going to work for one person may not work for another. And you and I, we can always have a conversation offline if you like. Maybe there are some ideas I can give you that might work for you in particular.
Great idea.
I was going to say the same thing. This is Jill Shire. What you just said about every person is unique. You have to find the system that works for you. And the way to maintain it is if you have a system that works for you. So, for example, I had someone one time who decided that all my jewelry would be in boxes and the boxes would be all labeled. And it was very difficult at night, opening and closing the boxes and putting it back in. And then I was in Home Depot, and they had those big plastic containers, and I was able to put all of my necklaces very easily into this plastic container with the earrings, and I could do it 1, 2, 3 like that. And for me, that system worked better. So there's not a wrong system and a right system. It's finding what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Very well said.
Great point. Great point. And I think the simplifying point is a major player in this too. I think very often we see that something's going a little off track and we become overwhelmed with it, and then we start adding on more. And so it's like that plate that you took, you're on the cruise ship and you've got the smorgasbord in front of you, and you're taking a little bit, and you go sit down and you look at this plate and you're like, oh my God, I'm not eating all that. There's so much on the plate. And then you don't want to eat anything because it's kind of like, there's too much here. Too much is confusing, and that's a message that, advertisers spend a lot of time with, and business owners spend a lot of time with, because when we're developing programs, when you're putting together logos, when you're putting together websites, any of those kinds of things, too many choices, too many things in people's face, it's overwhelming, it's confusing. So simplifying, pulling back. What are the top 3 things? What are the top 3 things today may not be the top 3 things tomorrow. Looking at it in smaller pieces. What can I do? What can I do in the time that I have? And I think we tend to look at things and say, oh, I don't have enough time to straighten that up. Or I don't have enough time to see my friend or follow up on whatever. I only have half an hour before I have to pick up my daughter. I only have an hour before the end of work or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. What can you do? And I personally have taken that on as a mindset, and I can't tell you how it has tweaked things for me. Because there'll be times that I will have all this stuff sitting here, and I'll be like, oh my God. And okay, you got a half an hour. What can you do? And you'd be surprised what you pick out when you allow yourself to say, okay, 30 minutes is enough time to do a series of things. What can I accomplish? And it may not be everything, and it may not work for everybody, but I can tell you for me personally, it works. So to your point, I think that that's well taken, that a lot of this is personal, and it's the systems and the things, the mental things too, that you have that work for you.
You prioritized.
Yeah, exactly. It's forced prioritization. Exactly what it is. Absolutely. So, Gail, there's a lot of emotional that's involved in holding things in place. There's memories, there's connections to relationships. So maybe you're downsizing and empty nesting, and you've got all of your children's toys from when they were babies, or all the stuff in their rooms, and you no longer need all those rooms or things to look exactly that way. Or maybe you're in the throes of divorce, and you're separating the chair legs from each other and trying to figure out who gets what. There's emotional that plays into that. Even with stacks of books, people get very caught up. Oh, I love
my gosh.
I love that book. I don't really have place in my bookshelf anymore, but I love that. I can't get rid of that book.
That's right.
It's big and it's little. It's in every aspect of what we do. And it translates, because sometimes we don't get rid of the husband that maybe we should be getting rid of. And sometimes we don't, we think that best friend that we've had for 20 years is still and will always be our best friend. And that relationship is no longer working because we're very different now. But we're holding on to it because that's what we know. And we've got these emotional bonds. So what we have emotional is a lot of things that kick into place. Some of it is, perfection, really. Oh, I had it right, so now I'm going to hold on to it so it stays right. But that doesn't work that way, because balance moves. Gail, what are your thoughts on perfection and the emotional attachment to all of this?
I agree with you. In fact, you just reminded me of something. In driving, right? In order to go forward, we don't necessarily hold the wheel static. We're constantly adjusting. Absolutely. Right, left, forward, faster, slower. There's always an adjustment going on to maintain that balance.
And you make a mistake, what do you do?
When you make a mistake, you go somewhere else.
You turn around. You can turn around. You can go somewhere else. You can take an alternate route, because there's always more than one way to get someplace.
Absolutely. And I think that perfectionism especially is a major cause of procrastination. Many people feel that if they can't go beginning to end like you were saying, if there's only a short amount of time, I can't do the whole task in 30 minutes or whatever it is, then I might as well not do it at all. But if it's possible, like we said before, to chunk it down into smaller 5-minute pieces or whatever, do something. And perfectionism will hold somebody back because they can't do it perfectly. So they might not do it at all.
Right.
So things just tend to pile up.
Or they can do it tomorrow.
Right. Do it tomorrow. Right.
Or the
Right,
next day.
exactly.
Then it'll be better.
It's a great quote. Tomorrow is the busiest day of the week.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. So what
Ladies, I'm on the phone and I have a question, but I didn't want to interrupt.
Please do. Go ahead.
Hi. I tried to figure out the computer and then figured it out too late, so I'm on the phone, but I can see you guys. It's really weird. So, and I missed the first 3 minutes because I was technologically challenged, so maybe you went over this, but
Probably not.
if you're, I'm overwhelmed and I'm literally sitting at a desk where it's not exactly hoarders buried alive, but it's, stacks that, fall over every once in a while. I feel like every surface in my house is covered. I'm bad at paperwork and stuff, and I'm guilty of all of the things that you've mentioned and probably more that you haven't. I've always dealt with the surface and then nothing beneath it. So I don't know how. I understand starting somewhere, and I understand finding what works for you. But what should you do if nothing has worked for so long and so many different things that you've tried have not worked, that you just don't know what new idea to do? So, I'm always Googling and reading magazine articles and listening to people's advice, but nothing has worked for me so far.
Carrie, thank you for sharing, first of all. I'm going to ask you a question. What are you holding on to?
Just everything. And I love getting rid of stuff. And I'm not trying to make it sound like I've accomplished even one thing in the last, I don't know how long, but I did shred 80 bags worth of old financial stuff.
Yay.
Literally AT&T and MCI, like companies that don't exist anymore. Like nobody even remembers what MCI was, but bills and statements and things going back to 1988. And I've done that, but I feel like I'm on a mountain and there's an avalanche coming, and I have a very tiny shovel, and I accomplished something with my shovel. I'm not saying I don't accomplish little things, but at the same time, I'm still going to get killed in the avalanche anyway, no matter how much I'm shoveling.
Okay. So.
Oh, we've lost, who's this? This is Jill. We've lost Jill's audio.
Yeah, we did.
Did I do that?
No, you didn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. The avalanche. Yes, there's an avalanche. But guess what? That's by choice. Because we choose how we want to have things.
Yeah.
We can choose our decisions that we're making. So how does it make you feel? And it's a good question, I think, for everybody. How does it make you feel when you get rid of some stuff? So even if it's those MCI statements, and I do remember, from the 80s. What's that?
I mean, it felt great. It's just, my problem is it's not enough. It's never enough.
Do you find that you're holding on to everything then because you just stuck not being able to move?
Yes. And just it used to be lack of time to deal with it. And now I actually have some time to deal with it, but it's still so scattered and fractured and inefficient.
It's not really the things, Carrie. It's what's going on. I think you hit it right on the head when you said that before. It's what's going on inside, and we all have stuff going on inside. So I'm not isolating you in any way. Thank you for sharing again. It's deeper than that. So that you make an inroad, but you're not changing what's going on. So there's still this need in you, this fear of letting go, what it will say about you. So if you wanted to have I don't know if you can hear me, if you want to have an offline discussion to take that further, I would be more than happy to do that with you. But it's really stuff that is a little bit deeper than just the stuff, obviously. And in order to take those steps, you've got to set the pace that's going to work for you and find ways to pull forward, So that's why I was asking you, how did that feel when you did get rid of something? How does it feel when you're not piling stuff up? Because when we bottle up some of those positive feelings of celebrations, that's a really positive thing. So, did you have anything else to add today?
Yeah, I know Carrie just stepped away for a moment, but I'd like to reiterate for Carrie that she is in a safe space.
Yes.
And there's no shame in sorry, my other phone is ringing, in what she's telling us. We're
all holding on to something. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
We all do.
I'm wondering if there was any trauma in Carrie's background that might have triggered certain habits, anybody's voices in her head that aren't her own. I'm so sorry, my house phone just rang, so I apologize.
It's okay, we can hardly hear it. Go ahead,
So I agree with what you're saying, that it's important to go deep, piece by piece, layer by layer. You don't necessarily see the full iceberg if you're looking at just the surface, and of course you can't conquer the full iceberg at one time. You have to sort of peel away the layers.
Exactly.
This is Jill Shire. Is my audio still off?
No, now we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, because what I was going to say to Kathy is you're not alone, and there's a lot of people who feel like that. And actually, you said something very, very good. You said that it's always the surface that you're taking care of, and I think that's what we were all saying. It's always something much deeper. So I know for me, my husband passed away, and I hold on to all these papers that I don't understand, and I put them in a file, as if somebody's going to come knock on my door, and they're going to go, "Oh, do you have the file on?" "Oh, it's right here." So there is something always much deeper for why we're holding on to certain things. And that's why I said in the beginning, I think the first thing is identifying what's causing it. And I think I've got that part. But like you, Kathy, I thank God you can't see everything that's around me, because I've got those piles and those stacks and things falling over also. And I also get rid of things and feel like I'm not even putting a dent in it, because it's a lot. And so I think what I just wanted to say, and what I want to say before, was that you're not alone. And I think sometimes we think that it has a reflection on us. And it takes a toll sometimes on our self-esteem, because like you all said before, you don't want people to see the whole picture. But when you look at it, when I look around me, I know that something is not right. And to the outside world, I'm able to project something much different. But when I come into my home, just taking one look around, you know that something is just not right. And it's those stacks of things, those stacks of papers.
Thank you for sharing as well. Yes, it comes back to that same thing. If we don't allow ourselves to let go of the stack of paper, the folder with your husband's stuff in it, the pile of whatever, we can't let anything else in. And so it's a stopgap. We may be able to, for the outside world, go out there and make things happen. But when we come back to ourselves, we're not connecting authentically to ourselves, because we're holding on to things that don't serve us currently, today, in this moment. And this moment's the one we have. We don't have yesterday. Much as some of us would like to have parts of it. We don't have tomorrow yet. But today we have. And so whatever we're holding on to today is something else that we can't take in. Okay, so there's got to be that little space that you say, okay, enough. What am I tolerating here? What am I willing to put up with here? And you got to get angry enough with yourself to say, I'm going to do something about it. Because sometimes it just takes that much, that much of digging deep and saying, okay, I need to clear a little space because I want to let this in. Think about it. We have the phrase, and this is a favorite saying of mine too, the light at the end of the tunnel, right? The light at the end of the tunnel. But guess what? There's always a light. The light doesn't go away. We build these tunnels. So we build a tunnel around, and it keeps us safe and keeps us cocooned. And a tunnel can be the stuff we're holding on to. It can be whatever is in our way, whatever is blocking us from whatever the next thing is. The light's always there. Sometimes we let ourselves see it, sometimes we don't. That makes sense? If anyone wants to contact Gail or myself, we're going to give all of our information out after this is over. Please feel free to do that. We can take these conversations offline. I'm more than happy to help you answer questions. That's kind of what this is about as well. And again, I really applaud you both really for your honesty and stepping forward and being very authentic in this moment. So when we talk about making those significant changes, what are some things that would motivate? Which is a perfect time to talk about this, and talk about some of the positive things. What would motivate somebody? Carrie, what motivates you? When you actually do, can you hear me? When you actually do give something away, or you are able to say, okay, I can see clearly now. Is there something specific that motivates you to do that?
Crossing anything off on my list is always a very happy occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And I know everybody's going through something, and I know I'm not special.
Yes, you are.
I just, if you make a list and there's 10 things on the list, I want to celebrate getting 6 things done on the list and not punish myself for not getting the other 4 done. The problem that I find is that in the time it took to do the 6, that there's another 20 things that need to be added to the list that I don't even put down, because then there would be 24 things on the list and 24 things I haven't done instead of 4. And then I will invariably lose the list. And the other 20 things are just in my head. And so now I'm trying to cross things off in my head, which is just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And
so what am I suggesting?
It kind of goes like that. The list become the avalanche.
The list becomes the avalanche. So kill the list and do not just a list, and not a list that, okay, I didn't do these 20 things, so now they're tomorrow's list. Do a today list and do it the night before. 3 things. 3 things that you really want to accomplish. And this doesn't mean that the laundry doesn't have to get done or something else doesn't have to. Of course, those are things that are part of our lives, part of the day. 3 things that will pull something forward that you need to get done. And celebrate crossing each one off of your list. What can you do? Break it down to its smallest piece. People will say all the time, every client I have needs to go work out and go to a gym. That's part of everybody's thing. And I said, before you throw $1,500 or $2,000 down on some gym somewhere, buy yourself a really nice pair of sneakers. Put them on, tie them up, go for a walk, and then repeat it. And then repeat that again. And when the sneakers start to wear out, that's the time to join the gym. So it starts to become a habit. Find the 3 chunkiest things, accomplish them. Doesn't mean you're not doing other stuff that has to get done. You did not pick up your child or walk your dog or do something else. That's not a chunk. That's part of your day or your life. So breaking it down a little bit differently.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The today list.
Yeah. One of the things I often ask, people say, oh, I have to go to the gym. I have to go to the gym. Well, I also ask, well, do you like going to the gym? Or would you rather, would you rather do something else? Like, right. The idea is exercise, right? And I'm totally speaking for myself. I hate going to the gym, but I know I need exercise. So I've done exactly what you said, Randy. I love my sneakers. I love going outside for a walk.
Put them on.
Yeah, and I love to dance. For me, dancing, it's not work.
Okay.
So I do it gladly. And, if I'm dancing, well, I'm having a really good time. And guess what? I'm getting exercise. So that's the real goal.
And I love what you just said, because just like there's always another route to take when we get in our car. Right?
Exactly.
So you might want to take the highway. I'm a back road sort of girl. I much prefer not to take highways, even though it takes longer. Everyone has a different preference. There's more than one way to get to the same result.
Definitely.
Finding that little piece that works and celebrating that, and then moving to the next piece that works. Really what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Jill, what motivates you? Jill, can you hear me? Yeah. What motivates you? We don't have your audio. And she's not muted, so let's see if we get her back.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. You know what? I think it's very important every time you hear those negative thoughts to just replace them with positive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of us could beat ourselves up if we wanted to, if that was what the goal was.
Mm-hmm.
But you said, and I don't know if the things in the chat are things that should not be shared or should be shared, or how this is going to be later on when you're going to put on YouTube, because some of this stuff is pretty personal.
The chat stuff does not go on YouTube. It's out.
Okay. But I think I have two sons. My one son was my husband died of a heart attack right before my son was going off to before he graduated high school. The month before he graduated high school. I'm proud to say that I have gone through 4 graduations, and your kids, if your focus is your kids, and I'm sure as every mother, when you focus on your children, that's what gets you through things. I think that's what got me through a lot. And you have strength that you don't even realize that you have. And I think one of the things that also helped me a lot was I went through music and lyrics to songs, and some of them just really speak to me, and quotes. And I would repeat those every single day. And I just getting rid of any negative thoughts, because, you're not, just because you do something wrong or you didn't get to the 6th thing does not mean that you're a failure.
Not at all.
But it's very normal and natural to focus on things. One of the things also that I discovered is on Sundays, on channel 180 is Oprah's Soul Sunday. And she always has all these people on who are so inspiring to listen to. And I think it really just helps, because you're evolving. All of this is a journey, and none of us picked what our journey is, but this is what life dealt out to us. And somehow we have to get through it. And those folders of things are not things that belong to my husband. They're papers and things that I don't understand, and I think I'll get to later. But I think I'm finally getting to the point where I realize nobody's going to come and knock on that door. No one's going to ask me for that stuff. I need to figure it out myself. But you can't, it gets very overwhelming. And the more you think of all the things you have to deal with, the more you're going to feel like that avalanche is coming in. And I think the more you concentrate and focus on the things that are really going well, like the boys sometimes I think that's all I take care of well is the kids and the dog, but certain times it changes all the time. Just trying to keep positive. That's what helps.
Agree. I think that's part 2 of if you're going to make a to-do list concept. The part B of that is the success list. So celebrating that success. Even the smallest silly thing. It could be the crossing off of it. It could be the showing up for something that you haven't shown up for because you haven't shown up for it. It could be that call to the friend that you've been meaning to make for however long it is. It could be whatever that success is that is some thread of taking you forward. And I think those two things work really well together because we tend to forget about the successes because we're focusing on what we haven't done, not what we have done. So very, very good point. Very good point. I wanted to leave a little time for some organizational tips and time management tips to share. Gail, what are some of your favorites?
My favorite tips. Okay, I just kind of have one or two little ones. My most valuable tip would be to take a step back from your life periodically and look at it critically. Does it bring you joy? What should stay? What should go? If you're ready to make changes and there's a readiness factor, pick one small place to start, like one drawer, one commitment, one toxic relationship, and just start. Once you're comfortable with making a change, the rest will follow.
And I love that because it speaks to me. I'm a reinvention coach because coaching is my reinvention. And the question I asked myself before I started this journey was really kind of a defining moment. I asked myself one very simple question. I hit that midlife mark and I said, hey, if this were 10 years ago, what would I do? And the answers I knew right away. I said, I would go back, I'd get my MSW. You know, I'd add to my Bachelor of Science in Journalism, I'll get my MSW. I'm like, well, I could still do that, but is that what I want? And the answer was no. And I kind of took, like, you know, that cone of cotton candy that sits there and you can pull it apart. And I pulled it apart. What's my why? Why do I want this? What is the criteria for what I'm doing? So kind of that inventory, that looking at your life and saying, where am I now? And that changes. We're not the same people. You know, each decade of our lives, we change. The things around us change. The people around us change. And we should change and embrace what's meaningful to us, what's next to us. So I took apart all these little pieces of what things meant to me, and it led me to coaching. And there's a piece of that for everybody because you can take a look, as Gail was just saying, and say, what do I got? What's going on? What would I do if this were a different time? Where do I want to be? What's the things that are connecting me back? What do I want to really investigate or do with this? And I think that that's a real big key. So I wanted to just see if there's any ahas and takeaways from anybody from our chat today, anybody that I can't see who's on audio who would like to say something, please do. And then we're going to wrap up where you can find us and all of that. Anybody have anything else to add? Maya, Kathy, Bridget, either on video, on audio? No one? Okay. So where can you find us? And I welcome, anyone reaching out to myself or to Gail. I'm going to start with my little personal avalanche of stuff. See, like all these things. You can always reach me on my website and everything. I do all of my conversations with a coach, all of my speaking engagements, everything's on my website at www.randi, R-A-N-D-I, Levin, L-E-V-I-N, coaching.com. Or please reach out via email, and I welcome emails from any of you at Randi, R-A-N-D-I, at randilevincoaching.com. I have a free ebook on my website, 9 Actionable Tips for Mastering Your Road to Reinvention, that has 9 of the actual tips I use with my private clients that will help you get unstuck just a little bit. I'm a co-author in a new book called Get Results. You don't want to get results. 19 authors in here, all about how we personally gotten results. And I'm doing some events around this book. There's a virtual book launch party on Zoom, just like this, on the 12th. You can find out more information on my website. It's from 8 to 9 p.m. On the 19th, anybody who's local to Bergen County, there's a live book signing and workshop breakthrough and Get Results with Lois Kramer Perez, who was a CHT and in the previous book of this, and that's at Serendipity Labs in Ridgewood. So if anyone's looking to try that out or see what that is, great idea. At Waldock Library at 9:22 live with my signature speech workshop, The Power of Change, What Drives You, from 7 to 8:30. And on 9:28, very similar to this format, but live with Martha Fick, who is a stylist and fashion guru. Clean out your closet, clean out your life. So we're talking all about letting go and letting in also. And I'm thrilled and honored to have been chosen on 10/19 to be part of 201 Magazine's Exposure Women for Women event on their panel. And the topic is going for it. Okay, there'll be more conversations with the coach that I'll be posting and launching soon. And next year in January, starting in January, I'll be launching a virtual group coaching program. So that may be something that you'll have interest in, and there will be much more about that going forward. Gail, where can we find you?
Well, probably the best way to get me would be to give me a call, 201-364-6833. You can certainly find me on my website, www.lgorganized.com. My email is Gayle, Gayle, at lgorganized.com. I will be at the Holy Name Hospital Healthy Living Teaneck Creek Conservancy on November the 2nd. I believe that will be at 7 p.m., talking about organizing for stress-free holidays. And I have 3 items that I would love to give our attendees today. One is a tip sheet on time management. One is the 10 Commandments of Organizing. And the other is an ICD publication about readiness for change. So if you're willing to share your email address, I'm happy to send you those items.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions before we jump off? Anything else to add? Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gail. It's been wonderful. And thank you for joining us on Conversations with the Coach. Mess to Success. Bye, everyone.
Well done,
Thank you.
everybody.